Legion is arguably one of the most important systems inside of Maplestory, but it can also be one of the most confusing systems inside of Maplestory as well. As most of you know, there are a ton of characters to choose from and a ton of characters to create inside of the Legion system, but in this video we're going to be going over the best Legion characters to create to give you the most damage gained. I remember when I first started off as a newer player, there were a ton of things that I was super confused about when it came to Legion. What level do I need to get my Legion to? What level does the threshold change? What characters give me the most amount of damage output? And I remember it being extremely confusing, so hopefully by the end of this video, you guys know exactly what characters you need to create to give yourself the most damage gained from those Legion characters. Also, for reference, we do have a complete Legion guide on the channel that I will link below in the description. In this video, we're only going to be talking about characters to create to gain the most damage output. So if you want to know more about the entire Legion system as a whole, definitely recommend going and checking that video out first and then coming back to this video. So there are going to be 7 different stats to prioritize inside of the Legion system for characters that give you these desired stats. Number 1 is going to be crit damage, then skill cooldown, then boss percent damage, buff duration percentage, attacks that have a 20% chance to deal X amount of damage, IED, crit rate, and then of course your stat blocks. We're going to go over which characters give you these desired stats, at what level, and how much they actually give you. So for crit damage being your number 1 priority is going to be Hayato and Shade. RIP to Jet, as this used to be a character that you would have created for this desired stat, but unfortunately Jet is no longer with us. At level 200, this is going to give you 5% crit damage, and at level 250, it is going to give 6% crit damage. So these two are your number 1 priority for the most damage output to gain within the Legion system. Moving on to skill cooldowns. The only character that's going to give you skill cooldown percentage is going to be Mercedes. And at level 200, it is going to be 5%. And at level 250, it is going to be 6%. The next prioritization down the list is going to be your boss percentage. And there are going to be 2 characters that give you boss percent inside the Legion system. And those 2 characters are going to be Demon Avenger and Kana. At level 200, these characters will give 5% boss damage, and at level 250, they will give 6% boss damage. I recommend doing Kana first, as Kana is a much easier class to level, but both of them are 100% worth doing. Moving on from boss percentage, we go down to buff duration percentage as a prior on the list. There's only going to be 1 class that gives this desired stat, and it is going to be Mechanic. At level 200, it's going to give 20% buff duration, and at level 250, it is going to give 25% buff duration. So definitely a noteworthy Legion block to create when building your Legion. Moving on from Mechanic, we're going to talk about Wild Hunter, and that is going to give your attacks a 20% chance to deal a certain percentage of damage. And at level 200, it's going to be 16% damage, and at level 250, it's going to be 20% damage. This is a great skill for hurricane classes or any classes that deal a lot of lines within a short period of time. Moving on from Wild Hunter, we're going to move into IED, a very useful stat within Maplestory. And there are going to be 2 classes that give you IED inside of the Legion block, and those are going to be Blaster and Beast Tamer. Now, Beast Tamer is something that's only available to be created on certain events, so unfortunately it's not something that you can create year round. But when you do have the chance to create a Beast Tamer, make sure you at least just create the class. You don't have to necessarily get it to level 200 or even 140 at that time, but just make sure you create it so you can level this class up again at whatever time you need. At level 200, it's going to give 5% IED, and at level 250, it is going to give 6% IED. After IED, we are going to talk about crit rate percentage, and there are going to be again 2 classes that give this desired stat within the Legion system. Those are going to be Marksman and Night Lord. At level 200, these are going to give 4% crit rate, and at level 250, they will give 5% crit rate. Crit rate is super important. So if you're at 95% ID or you're at 96% ID and you don't have these 2 created, make sure you create these immediately, because crit rate is an extremely important stat within Maplestory, and you want to make sure you have that 100% crit rate at all times. So now that we've gone through all these specific stats, the next prioritization inside of the Legion blocks for damage purposes is going to be your stat specific blocks. I'm going to show a picture of a list with each of the classes and the stats listed next to them, so you guys have a good idea of what classes you need to create for your class specific stat. Now, I do want to make a point towards the end of this video that you don't necessarily need to create any of these classes in any specific order, just as long as you create each of these classes and put them on your Legion block. These classes are going to be the classes that give you the most amount of damage output, and although getting to 6k and 8k Legion is extremely important, getting these classes onto your Legion blocks and getting them to level 200 is just as important and adds up a ton of final damage when you group all of them together and get them all finished. So I hope after watching this video, it cleared up any confusion that you may have had about what classes that you should create that will give you the most damage output when working on your Legion. If you guys do have any questions or would like to add, please leave any comments in the comment section down below. But with that being said, guys, I hope you all did enjoy the video today. And until next time, I will see you all in the next one. Take it easy. Peace.